Welcome to Informed Sources on News Channel 3, where we talk about the week's big stories with local voices. I'm your host, Greg Hurst. Thanks for joining us. In a moment, I'll introduce our special guest, but first, here are tonight's hot topics, all impacting the Magnolia State. We're just 2 months away from the 2024 presidential election. Mississippi is expected to do what it's done the last two presidential elections, handing a solid victory to Donald Trump. But we'll take a look at some of the controversy surrounding Joe Biden's executive order on voter registration and the state's position on early voting. We'll also discuss the state's economy, from unemployment rates in Mississippi to economic development and the effort to eliminate the state income tax. And for years, statistics showed Mississippi among the last in the nation when it comes to education, but now we're seeing some major changes. The question's now, what prompted that change? Will it last? And what will it mean for the state's future? But before we begin tonight's discussion, let's introduce my special guest. I'm joined tonight by Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves. Governor, it's so good to have you here. It's good to see you.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's good to see you as well.
Well, I know you're really busy, and you got a lot to talk about here with the Mississippi politics, and we're so thrilled that you could join us to kind of give us your analysis of what's happening there in the Magnolia State.
Yeah, it will be a great conversation, and I look forward to it.
All right, sounds good. Let's jump right into it. In fact, in 2024, we have a presidential election coming up this November, but if the future is like the past, this won't be a great mystery in Mississippi. Trump has won that state in the past two presidential elections with almost 60% of the vote. Now, for people in Mississippi, the voting experience is still a little bit different from most other states. For instance, Mississippi is one of only 3 states without early voting, and it's one of only 7 that does not allow online voter registration. Plus, to vote by mail with an excuse, the voter must have 2 separate documents notarized. In addition, the State Election Commission is joining a lawsuit challenging a Biden administration executive order on voter registration. The executive order was issued in 2021 with the goal of boosting voter registration by directing federal agencies to participate in voter outreach and registration. However, the lawsuit alleges the order goes way too far, saying that's the state's job to handle voter registration on voter rolls. So, Governor, let's get started there with the presidential election. I'm sure you kind of like the former president's chances in Mississippi.
Yeah, we are confident that President Trump is going to win Mississippi. We've won Mississippi in 2016 and 2020 with President Trump on the ballot. And we've won both of those races by somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 to 20 points. And I would anticipate that, assuming turnout is what we expect it to be, which we always get a huge turnout in presidential election. I believe in 2020 we voted over 1.3 million Mississippians. But look, we're still working very hard here on the campaign and encouraging Mississippians to get ready to go to the polls and make sure that we do deliver our electoral votes for President Trump.
Let's talk about a couple of things that are happening with the vote. I know Joe Biden signed an executive order that he said would encourage voter registration in your state and others, but I believe you and your attorney general are suing to prevent that. Why?
Well, we are, because we think that the President of the United States and Vice President Kamala Harris need to focus on actually doing their job. The fact of the matter is, it is the state's responsibility to run elections, first of all. And look, I'll just be perfectly honest with you and tell you that I don't have a lot of confidence that the administration that has let 10 million illegal immigrants into our country over the last 4 years wouldn't spend whatever powers they have with the federal government trying to register those illegal immigrants. And so we're suing because we don't believe that they have the statutory or the constitutional authority to do what they're doing. And we think we're going to prevail in that lawsuit.
We'll be watching it. You do have a high percentage of your population registered to vote, in fact, one of the highest in the country. But Mississippi, interestingly, also has a much lower percentage of people who actually do vote. Why is that?
Well, I think there are a lot of different reasons. It's kind of the same reason that when you look at the United States Census Bureau, and when they do the census, Mississippi tends to be one of the states that underreports how many people we actually have in our state, and obviously there are a lot of folks that for whatever reason choose not to go to the polls. But we think in the presidential election year we'll vote over 1.3 million Mississippians, which is a very large percentage of the people who are registered, and we think that it will be an election that we run properly and that goes overwhelmingly for President Trump.
You know, Democrats have complained, Democrats and others, that Mississippi is one of only 3 states that don't have some form of early voting there. It seems like Republicans have consistently worked to prevent early voting. First of all, why is that, and are you going to push to perhaps change that at some point?
Well, here in Mississippi, we believe in the institution of Election Day. We believe that voting is a sacred right that has been fought for by many who have came before us and will continue to fight to ensure that we make it easy to vote but hard to cheat. And we do have an opportunity in our state where you can fill out an absentee ballot. You can do so if you have an excuse, if you're going to be out of state on Election Day. And we have some percentage of the population that takes advantage of that if they're going to be traveling. But it's important that more and more people go vote. It's important that everybody has the opportunity to vote. And we believe in the importance of voting and to do so on Election Day. I've often told my friends from around the country, we really encourage early voting in our state. It's just we define early voting by 7 a.m. on Election Day.
I hear you. You know, I know you support the former president, but Donald Trump has said he believes that each state and their citizens should decide the abortion issue. Do you agree with him there?
What I would tell you is we fought very hard to protect the right to life in our state. We went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. We overturned Roe versus Wade, and we're very proud of that fact. We also have some of the most strict laws in the country, and that's what our people want. I do believe that there ought to be, I personally believe there ought to be a national minimum standard. I do not believe that Americans think that late second trimester or third trimester abortions are something that ought to happen. The reality is that I believe there ought to be a national minimum standard, and states ought to be able to go even more strict if that's what they choose to do. That's my personal views.
Well, for 2 consecutive legislative sessions, Mississippi's political leaders there have proposed legislation that would keep Mississippi voters from being able to vote on abortion. Will you and your fellow Republicans continue to oppose that, or will you at some point try to persuade your colleagues to put this to a vote?
Well, I will tell you, I think Mississippi has very strong anti-abortion laws. We believe in the sanctity of life in our state. I believe that is a view that is held by the vast majority of our legislature. And by the way, in our state, that's a view that is held by members of both parties. I don't think there's a need to vote on it because I think we are representing our constituents by protecting the right to life, protecting the sanctity of life, recognizing, however, that being pro-life is not just simply being anti-abortion. Being pro-life is also doing things legislatively and otherwise to help make things easier for those children once they are born into the world, and those are the kind of things that we are focused on. I don't see any reason for us to have a statewide ballot or initiative on that particular topic. We are a right to life state. We believe in protecting the sanctity of life, and we'll continue to fight for that.
All right, Governor, a lot more to talk about. In fact, when we come back, the Magnolia State has some big economic developments, and could more changes be coming to the state's income tax? That's coming up next on Informed Sources.